boss demands I stop wasting time with quality control, so I maliciously comply and burn $10,000. Here's what happened. Subscribe to AmITheA on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. I work for an embroidery company that embroiders logos onto uniform shirts. There's this one particular shirt we get all the time that has a diagonal closure, so the left side of the chest is essentially covered up by a huge flap coming from the right side. There's such little room on the left side that any logo bigger than an inch looks like it's going into the person's armpit. After a few complaints, we made it policy to only allow that shirt to put logos on the right. A big company we work with likes to make massive orders with generalized embroidery placement. For example, 10 different types of garments all embroidered with a logo on the left of the chest. Whenever I would see that this particular shirt was in the mix, I would reach out to them to let them know we needed to switch the logo to the right side. One difficult manager from that company reached out to their client with my suggestion and got an earful because the client insisted that their logo could only be placed on the left due to company policy. Instead of smoothing it over with her client, this rep took it out on me. She sent me a very aggressive email stating that we were perfectly capable of embroidering this shirt on the left side because we had done it in the past, and to stop blowing up her inbox with our suggestions for a better embroidery location. From now on, whatever embroidery location the order requests is final. I saved the email and got my boss's blessing to immediately stop all quality control emails for this company, per manager request. One day, a huge order comes in. All diagonal shirts, all left side embroidery. I maliciously complied and sent the order on its way, with no hassle to the manager. A week later, an executive from that company emails me, horrified. He forwarded photos of the client's shirts, all with the logos in the armpits. He said that they were having to refund the client over $10K and that the client was in an uproar, never wanting to order shirts from them again. Why didn't we tell them this was a bad location for the embroidery? I didn't say a word, simply forwarded the email the manager sent me, telling me verbatim that I was to no longer waste the company's time making useless suggestions for those shirts. It was confirmed that they had to do a big fat refund, and I did not see a reorder, so I suspect the client dismissed them as a vendor. And this was a big client. Think a very swanky hotel brand. We don't usually get emails from the executives, so I think they were really hoping for big bucks with these guys. Oh well, as far as manager goes, I suspect she was demoted. They sent us a very polite, groveling email introducing a new manager and requesting that we resume our quality control, emphasizing that we knew best. Yeah, you do. That's why you tried to tell her in the first place. And from what I gather, you had already told them about these shirts several times before. I get that when you're placing a large order, sometimes something like this gets lost in the mix, and that's what you're there for. So when you're explicitly told not to do that job, that's gonna cause a big problem for the person actually placing the order. But the customer's always right? You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below. And don't forget to subscribe. Karen demands I sell my land to her son or else she'll call the police. Now, first, some backstory. My now passed on next door neighbor was a terrible busybody who felt it was her God-given right to tell everyone on our street what they could and couldn't do. From where they parked their cars to what flowers they could grow. She had to know everyone's business and would harass people until she got answers, even going as far as stalking. But that's for another story. If she didn't get her own way, she would spread the most evil gossip. Her adult children, a son and a daughter, were both greedy and deeply entitled, believing that because the majority of the street were either social housing or rented properties, they were better than everyone else. And if they didn't get what they wanted, then mother would sort it out. I have many stories about this neighbor far worse than this, but I'll start off with this one as it's the mildest thing she's done. The son owns 2 other properties near the end of the street, which he rents out. At the very end of the same street is another house with a plot of land right next to it. The owners of that house and land built a garage that they use for work, rebuilding old cars and bikes. The business is at least 30 years old, handed down from father to son. It's very small, so they can only work on one vehicle at a time, but due to the owner's skills at restoration, they're always in high demand. One day, about 10 years ago, the son rolls up in his latest BMW and walks up to the owner, a father and his teenage son. The rest of this conversation is paraphrased, as I wasn't a witness, but this is what was told to my family by the owners themselves. "Hey guys, it's your lucky day. I want to buy your land. I'll give you 15,000 pounds. Note that he didn't ask if it was for sale or offer to negotiate a fair price. No, sorry. The business isn't for sale. Thanks for the interest, though. I wasn't asking for your business. You can set up somewhere else. I want the land. It's just the right size to build another house on. Well, sorry, no. This is our livelihood. We can't just move. We'd lose business while looking for someplace else. And besides, it used to be my father's garage and it's next door to our home, so why would we want to sell it? So you can make money. But we make money working here, so sorry, it's not for sale. The son then does what you would expect a grown man of 30, yes, 30 to do. He complained to his mother. His mother takes no time at all to walk back to the garage.
Why won't you sell your garage to my son? He wants to build a house here.
Because this is our place of business and we don't want to sell.
You shouldn't even be working here. It's dangerous.
I can assure you, ma'am, everything's up to code, and we have every right to work here. Now, please leave us alone.
What are you hiding in there? It's not anything illegal, is it?
What? No, we're fixing up an old bike.
I knew it. You're working here illegally. Sell your land to my son or I'll contact the authorities.
The owner laughed and told her to go ahead. She stormed off and they thought it was over. Just the nutty ravings of a mad granny, right? An hour later, sure enough, the police arrive. Apparently, an anonymous caller rang them to say that the owners had been dealing drugs out of the garage. It was obvious who'd called them. Of course, all the neighbors had seen the police arrive. Our street is normally quiet, and we're all nosy. So when you see blue flashing light, you step out and watch the show unfold. Entitled Mother took great glee in telling everyone standing around and watching the chaos how the owners had been
selling stuff to children.
And how she wasn't the one who called them, but
everyone knows what's going on. And thank goodness something's finally being done about it.
Half the neighbors were shocked at this event, but a few of the longer-term residents were already giving her the side eye like it was on special offer at Tesco or Walmart. She must have been feeling pretty smug with herself. Only there was a snag, just a little one. Because the tiny garage worked on rare and old cars, which can be expensive, the owners had CCTV. That was something Entitled Mother had not counted on. After the police had shown up, the owners knew who the culprit was, and had no issues with showing footage complete with sound to the officers, showing Entitled Mother threatening to call the police if they didn't sell the land. With half the neighbors out and watching events unfold, the Entitled Mother's face switched from smugness to fear as the police walked away from the garage and approached her instead. The officer then asked if they could step inside her home to discuss something she probably didn't want her neighbors to hear. She received a warning regarding harassment and wasting police time. The owners of the garage were never bothered again, and the last remaining neighbors who didn't know how bad she was finally saw her for the witch she was. What makes this woman think that she can just threaten people with the police? She's just making stuff up at this point. It's just a convenient lie for her to get what she wants. And if there aren't actually any substances on the property, this whole plan of hers kind of falls apart, doesn't it? Okay, so you call the police and you tell them a lie and they show up and discover it's a lie. Do you still think they're gonna arrest the people and that you're gonna walk out with the land on the other side? side, I really don't think she thought this plan through to the end. The only result there is you getting in trouble for lying to the police. Lucky for her, this sounds like it's a pretty small town, so they let something like that go. If you were living in the big city, they wouldn't give two craps. You're wasting police time when they need to be somewhere else, most likely. All for your pettiness, for your son's behalf, because he can't strike a proper bargain. I've got so many issues with these people. Let's just move on. I got a Karen banned from my store for stealing a pen. This happened a few days ago, but I'm still shaking my head at this woman and her family. They spent about 10 minutes in the store with no problems. I got her all rung up and ready to go. She writes a check. Still no problems. I ask for an ID to verify the check. Store policy. And then, out of nowhere, she looks at the pen she's holding on to and says, "Since I just spent over $100 here, I'm entitled to take this pen." Now, this pen is the best pen we've had for writing on the thermal receipt paper. Everyone knows that when you get a pen like this, you'll never have any problems with it not writing at all. I'm just kind of looking at her, and I say, "No, you can't have that pen, but we do have free ones that you can take, and you can have as many of those that you want. I'm entitled to take this pen." Ugh, I just wanted to smack this woman upside the head. I told her again, "No, you cannot have it." I turned to put her check into my register, and she flipping walked off with my pen. I told my boss lady what happened, and boss lady's writing this customer a letter saying she's banned from the store until she returns the pen back to us. This is kind of a stupid scenario all around, honestly. While this Karen is acting incredibly entitled, maybe she didn't realize that this pen was for that specific use. Personally, if it were me, I would have included that that was why she couldn't have that pen. Cause if she's acting like this, that's gonna be her thoughts. "Well, I can have those pens, why can't I have this one?" Well, there is a reason to my madness, believe it or not. I guess she just really liked the look of that pen in particular. I refuse to babysit for my sister anymore after her son lied about me and she threatened to call the police. My sister is a single mother with 2 children, an 11 and 7-year-old. The 7-year-old is a boy while the other one is a girl. She works a lot and doesn't have a lot of money to afford babysitting, so I started watching her kids for her for free. There was an incident one day where the 7-year-old had gotten mad at me because I wouldn't let him jump on the couch. I explained to him that he could get hurt, and he threw a tantrum, which was normal. It's what young kids do. Well, around the time my sister gets home, he suddenly starts bawling his eyes out and running towards her. I'm confused, as he was fine just a second ago, but followed behind him to greet her. He immediately starts on a rant about how I had a man in the house, and how neither him or his sister had eaten at all that day. My sister was rightfully ticked and started asking questions. I shook my head and said that he was lying and that she had cameras so we could sit down and watch them. She said no and that I needed to go before she called the police. So I left. A few hours later, she calls me and apologizes, saying she watched the footage and saw no man enter the house at all, and that she had seen that her son had refused to eat the dinner I made them. She asked when I could come by next, as she hoped I understood the misunderstanding, but I said I would no longer be babysitting for her. She said that he's just 7 and that kids lie all the time, but I still refused. We went back and forth over the phone insulting each other, and that was that. Our mother thinks I'm being ridiculous for being mad at a kid, but it's more than that. I could have gotten in trouble if the police had shown up and he was saying what he said. So am I the jerk? My issue here is that the mother acknowledges that kids lie all the time, yet still chose to believe the kid's word first and not check the evidence that the sister was offering. Personally, I'd be more insulted than anything that you're choosing to believe the kid's word over mine, and immediately threatening to call the police is kind of excessive. I mean, if that's really the way you want to play it, go ahead. They're not going to do anything because nothing happened. They'll just say the same thing of, "Let's see the footage." It just feels like mom's trying to shrug off this blatant insult to her sister and still wants to use her as a babysitter. I'm sorry, we're gonna need a little bit more acknowledgement of what happened than that. Entitled mother sells my dog to a stranger in a different city and hides it from me for 5 years. I'm 15 and I live in Croatia. For the cast today, we have entitled mother, me and my dad, and the man who bought my dog. He's a very good person who was clueless about the whole thing. Let's give you some backstory. I had a small dog called Bongo. I know it's a weird name, but I was young and I really wanted a dog named Bongo. He went missing when I was 10, or so my mom said. I was very sad when that happened and didn't want to talk to anyone for a week. My mom tried to cheer me up by taking me to the toy store to buy me a Hot Wheels car, but she mostly bought herself clothes and shoes, and I only got 3 Hot Wheels cars, only because that day it was a buy 2 get 3 deal for them. And now on to the main story. A couple weeks ago, I was going to a car meet in Zagreb, where I spotted a dog that looked exactly like my Bongo. Bongo has his left eye missing because of another dog who attacked him, so that's why I knew it must be him. I told my dad I'd be back in a minute and walked up to the man who was walking him. Excuse me, sir, can I see your dog for a second?
Oh yeah, sure. He's very good with people. He's not gonna bite.
May I say, he looks exactly like my dog.
Oh, what's his or her name?
His name was Bongo.
His name's also Bongo.
Sir, where did you get this dog? At this point, the dog started to whine out of happiness and started jumping around like crazy.
I bought him from a lady 5 years ago.
My heart sank to the floor. Can you please describe the lady who sold you the dog?
She was short, dyed blue hair, and had a small blue purse, and she drove a white Kia.
You literally just described my mom, and she said my dog went missing 5 years ago. I asked the man if he could come over to our house with Bongo to ask my mom a few questions. He said yes. I explained everything to my dad, and he also recognized the dog. When we got home, when Bongo stepped into my house, when my mom saw him and the man, everything started coming together. I wish you could have seen my mom's face, white as a ghost. We had a serious talk for several hours, and Bongo ended up back with me. We helped the man get another dog and kept in touch. I stopped talking to my mom, and I'm still not talking to her. My mom is a serious liar who did many other bad things, which I won't talk about now, maybe some other time. That's such a jerk move. Why did she get rid of the dog? Did she just not like having it around? Was there never a conversation about this? While we got some backstory, I don't feel like we got enough. I don't think the mom would just sell the dog for no reason, even if that reason is incredibly petty and selfish. There must have been a reason, and I need to know it because this is just completely crazy to me. If I were our original poster, I would have cut off contact with her at that point too. Clearly, she doesn't give a crap about your happiness. I told my parents I'm not going to keep giving them money if they just give it to my brother. I'm a 32-year-old female. My brother, 35, is trash. He has multiple baby mamas and is a total deadbeat. He also is the apple of my mom's eye. He can do no wrong and is just misunderstood. My parents are retired and on a fixed budget. I do well for myself and I help them out. I give them maybe $500 extra a month to help with groceries and bills. Every once in a while, I'll give them a little something extra for an unexpected expense. No questions asked. My mom asked me for $2,000. I sent it to her. Strangely enough, I ran into my brother at a family wedding. I'd been told he couldn't afford to attend because it was a destination wedding. Weird. Funny story. He actually missed the wedding because he hooked up with some rando on an excursion and went to their resort. It was our cousin's wedding and my aunt was ticked. She had to make special arrangements to get him included on the trip, since he only got the money last minute. She said my mom shouldn't have given him the money if he wasn't going to show up. Then she shut up after she saw the look on my face. I enjoyed the wedding and had a great time. When I got home, I went to see my parents. I asked my mom why she'd asked for the $2,000. She lied and said it was something for the house. I asked what. She couldn't say. I told her what my aunt said. I told her and my father that from now on, I wanted receipts for any money I gave them. I said I have no problem helping them, but I don't work my butt off to give her money to give to my piece of crap brother. She started crying, and my dad said that they weren't children and didn't answer to me. I agreed and walked out. I didn't talk to them for 2 months. My aunt called me yesterday and told me my parents were thinking of going to the food bank since they didn't have any money. I said I had given them $2,000 a couple of months ago, and that was more than my family of 3 spent on food in that time. She said I knew very well they had given my money to my brother. I told her that he should probably pay them back then. She said I was being a jerk. Am I the jerk here? Honestly, they're the ones asking you for money. When that's the case, you do get some say in how it's spent, whether they like that or not. Clearly, they know you don't want them spending this money on your brother, or your mom wouldn't have lied about it to begin with. Honestly, if your parents don't want to be going to a food bank, then they need to swallow their pride and have that conversation with you, that you get to decide how that money's spent. It is your money. You're giving it to them, not your brother. If your brother needs money, he can ask, and then you can say no to his face. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.